Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis, joined by some heroes, Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler, our personal shaman of our youth, Mark Sessler, Mike Francesa over in New York radio, once said, the season doesn't even start until after Thanksgiving. So by that logic, everything we're about to talk about for the next 2 hours doesn't matter.
Has zero meaning, but check in next week because it would be right after Thanksgiving and the meaning starts to kick in.
But now with the extra week in the season, does that mess up Francesa's whole bit? Is it like a week after Thanksgiving? We'll have to get into it. Belichick and Parcells always said that. He kind of stole that.
Right. Well, they used to go to the horse races up there in Saratoga together. Anyway, that's enough. If Mike, are you watching? Hi.
Doubt it.
Today's show is going to be fun. 2 minutes for each team in the league, 32 teams. Well, some teams might get one. That's always fun to find out who only gets.
That's one more than most of the shows on the network give them.
Okay, well, there you go. That's a nice way to put it, while also being combative with our colleagues across the company. And if you like us, if you've never seen us and if you've never watched our show, at the end of the show, you say, oh, they're pretty good. The Around the NFL podcast, 4 times a week, including Sunday nights, our flagship show, where we recap every game we're about to talk about and preview. Let's get into the action at hand, starting with the NFC East. And I'll get this one going, boys. Trayvon Diggs will be, the experience of Trayvon Diggs will be front and center against the Chiefs. We all know what the Chiefs are as a team, what they can be, what they showed on Sunday night against the Raiders. And Trayvon Diggs is, in a lot of ways, everything that the Chiefs want to attack and also are afraid of. The Chiefs have had issues with turnovers. Trayvon Diggs has been a turnover machine. The Chiefs love explosive plays on offense. Trayvon Diggs loves giving up. Well, he doesn't love it, but he does give up explosive plays on offense. So I feel like what happens in this game, Diggs will be at the center of it.
I mean, there's a reason that PFF has him as their 104th cornerback.
Out of
119 qualifying.
Here's one of the reasons, though, is that their grading, it needs some work if he's 104th.
He does need work, but I think he also brings this incredible skill set that has him talked about as a defensive player of the year, because that's how votes happen for that kind of thing. Because turnovers and game-changing takeaways that he offers have helped this Cowboys team in immense ways. And then the rest of it, maybe he shores that up in time. He's
my thing is, he's not the defensive player of the year. And I don't think he should be in that discussion right now. But saying that he's 104th out of 119 is going too far the other way. There's no way you can explain to me a situation where you take the ball away that many different times.
Greg, it's a data point. And
I get it.
You love numbers and little books and things, so I'm throwing a little data point at you.
Right, it's not against you.
I didn't grade him
It's not against you. It's against that grading system, because I think all he needs is one possession extra that you give Dak Prescott, and that might be the difference in this game.
Okay, so this is more a broader thing, but like PFF, for instance, their grading, they study every play of every game. It's subjective, and you could take it or leave it. But it's also, don't just say, go to PFF or any of these sites and say, okay, that's how good the player is. Use it. Okay, so that means he takes a lot of chances. He gets beaten coverage a lot. But then he also passes the eye test as a playmaker on defense. It's more nuanced. Don't just get sucked into groupthink.
We're talking to you. Don't get sucked in, please.
Greg on the Eagles.
Love this Eagles team. So weird. And I loved them a little more after this last week when Devontae Smith, their great rookie wide receiver, had a terrific celebration. And he was asked about it after the game. And he said it was something that it's been a rallying cry for the team. We're letting them hang.
What? I mean, letting what hang?
I mean, they're letting him hang. He did the celebration. We can see it, right? Let's see this.
I would like to see it. I need more clarity. I seek clarity.
Now it's based on, and Nick Sirianni was asked to explain it.
I loved him.
It's based on a Ghetto Boys song.
Okay.
Kind of let him hang.
It has layers.
Now Nick Sirianni likes rap, and it's something apparently because he wanted this to happen, and he did the old Sam Cassell thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we can't show it, or is this?
Maybe it's too controversial.
I don't believe it's
for TV.
Yeah, it's maybe not ripe for NFL Network, but I think that unless you're watching this in a bar room with no sound, we understand what Greg is saying.
Yes.
I just love that mindset.
What does it mean? Just be aggressive. Have an aggressive viewpoint on how you're going to attack the opponent.
I mean, it's a mindset that I don't think it really means anything. It's just one of those fun things. They have been more aggressive, I think, in terms of, there it was at the very end. more aggressive when it comes to like being who they are. They figured out who they are as a running team, and they have blitzed a little more on defense lately too.
Well, I think also Jalen Hurts, who's averaging like 11 rushes over the last 5 games per tilt, like has been a revelation on the ground, and they transformed who they are on offense, and that's hard to do in the NFL season. I give Sirianni credit for being a little more creative because they got into a rut a while back.
And teams that let them hang, as the expression goes, they're usually fun to watch. And I do think the Eagles they're not a perfect team. I don't see them as a credible contender in the NFC. But I think when on a Sunday, like when we go back and watch games, whether it's Sunday or Monday or whenever in the week, like I like watching the Eagles games because there's going to be some juice to them.
It also makes me think this team likes Nick Sirianni. Because when they brought it up, like they got a big smile on their face. Sirianni's explaining the Ghetto Boys, like all the players like that. I was like, all right, he's like the cool dad of coaches.
It's funny because like 2 weeks ago we were talking about his flower analogy and all the players side-eyeing him. I guess things change.
Things change.
You know, winning is good in sports. It tends to change the narrative around a team quickly. All right, Greg, how about you on the Washington football team?
Love this Washington football team. Love this matchup, especially this week, thinking about the revenge angle. Cam Newton, was not the only guy who lost his job with the Panthers. Ron Rivera was the guy who was done a little dirty by Dave Tepper. So if you think that Cam wants to go get at Ron Rivera, absolutely he does. Maybe for some of the comments where Rivera, expressed some confidence in his ability to stop Cam Newton. Man, Ron Rivera was the best coach in the history of the Carolina Panthers, and he got fired 4 or 5 games into a pretty embarrassing 2019 start. Didn't get to finish out that season. Now he gets to go back with a lot of former Panthers, including Taylor Heineke, on that Washington roster and go get an upset victory.
I hear you. I struggle with the revenge scenarios.
Done dirty feels strong, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's still getting guaranteed money.
All right.
Getting paid like crazy.
Let's compare him, let's say Rex Ryan. Similar resume. If he was fired 4 games into a rough start to the season by a brand new owner, you don't think that's doing dirty? Like guys who have been a really good head coach.
I mean, Ryan was fired very early into that one Bills campaign, so.
That was the Bills, though.
All right, Greg, I see your point there.
Guess we can say whatever we want.
I'm just saying he's like known as one of like the guys in the league, like one of the best.
Do you think that
Ron
Rivera and Cam, though, I feel like beyond the stories that we're telling, like, are they not probably having super respect for each other and very tight, and instead of sitting in like their office dens?
Yes and no. Cam Newton, I think, takes it somewhat personally that Ron Rivera decided Taylor Heineke is a better option this year, because there were some talk that Cam Newton could go play for that team, and they were like, nah, we're good with Taylor.
It should be stated, Greg. Let's be fair here.
Yeah.
Fired after week 13.
Okay, got it wrong.
And that's more in line. Teams sometimes like to do that to get ahead of the chase. And
that's the new trend.
But revenge, I'm still into it. I'm still into the greater of all points.
Still wasn't pleased. He was Ron Rivera, for better or worse, a Jerry Richardson guy. Very loyal to him in Carolina.
All right, Mark on the Giants.
All right, the 2021 NFL season. Guest starring the New York Giants.
G-Man!
I'm saying that they're guest stars because I feel like we are into our.
You said Giants, and then I said G-Man. It has to be one or the other, I would think.
I actually was meant to. What was meant to happen there was I was meant to say with special guest stars.
G-Man!
That's how you do it. I did not do it the first time, and that's
off to a flying start.
Right, just cut us to break. But listen, we have not seen the Giants. They're like that character in a show that has been like in a playful coma for much of the series.
Playful.
And then now suddenly they arise because we're going to see, it sounds like, with Saquon Barkley, with Kenny Golladay, with Kadarius Toney. This offense has not been together on any level. Poor Daniel Jones. They did play the Saints. You just saw that clip. They had nearly 500 yards in that game. So it's like the character rising from a long slumber. We finally get to meet the Giants and see more about them than them lying in a bed.
You know what I think? The coma thing's a good angle. I also liked in any 80s and 90s teen movie where they needed for the device of the plot for the house to be empty. Oh, my parents are going for a summer safari in Africa, so they'll be back in 3 months. That's been the Giants. They were on a summer safari in Africa.
And that one game where they were all together and healthy was so exciting. Kadarius Toney is an exciting player. Saquon Barkley is an exciting player. I think they have a chance to win this game because you know who else returned was that Giants defense that we saw from a year ago that was feisty before their bye. The defense is what got them a couple wins here to get to 3-6, win that game against the Raiders. Like, I'm with you. I think this could be a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, simplifying the defense. They've allowed like 13 points a game, 3 weeks in a row. They're tightening up. The G-men could be a little bit of spoiler material down the road, Dan. I don't say you say it better though.
The G-men. I don't like the Giants catching the Bucs when they're furious after a letdown against another NFC East. Also ran Washington.
Fair.
It could be a rough scene, but if they do find a way to upset the Bucs, first of all, the Bucs, it's going to be panic time in Tampa. The Giants, it's going to be the Giants or Eagles. I think one of those teams are going to make a playoff push in December. Both of them need a win
week for 'em.
this week. All right, let's go. We're just getting started here on the broadcast. Coming up next, we dig into the NFC South. We already saw one team play this week. You can put that in air quotes. Now we're going to talk about all four up next on the broadcast. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. We're just getting warmed up as we hit the NFC South division. And let's start with a team that just made an announcement late in the week about their quarterback.
Yeah, it's Cam Newton going to start for the Panthers. Not a surprise to us. I think it was trending this way all along. But I would ask this about the Panthers. Is Cam's return a wrinkle in time? I'm not talking about the novel by Madeleine L'Engle was her name.
That was my first thought.
No one here read that. But what about that movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow back in the day? Have you seen that? Where there are two Gwyneth Paltrows.
Not really a big hit.
But it was a nuanced film, Greg. She's got the brown hair version of her where she kind of like makes the wrong decision and stays stuck.
Spoiler alert.
Sort of stays stuck in her life. But then there's a blonde-haired version where she expands and grows as a person. It's Sliding Doors based on one decision. We have Cam Newton back in Carolina. Is this a sliding doors thing? We're in another world. Maybe Mac Jones is in year one of being their 15-year starter. Had they done something else in the draft? Is this the brown hair version, the blonde hair version?
So
is this good? Is this bad? What is this?
Is it going to be a better Cam, the old Cam? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, I'm not really I think I see what you're saying. So the the sliding doors here is, what if they would have kept Cam Newton? They didn't, and then went off in this whole other weird direction that has not worked out. But then they did this other thing when they said, we're going to take the wrong door and then go back in and go out the other door and grab Cam back. And it's just very strange. But at the same time, it's it's
I'm
fun
confused.
as a Panthers fan.
I think the analogy is a struggled analogy, but I was going to bring some Gwyneth Paltrow images in, but the NFL Network doesn't have rights to that. So.
Well, one thing you know about Mark is that he's a big Paltrow head.
No, that's not the case.
For real. Seriously, of any guy I know, you are the biggest Paltrow.
We're 12 minutes into the show, and the narratives that are fake are beginning.
Here's the thing. It's not weird that they went back to Cam this year because Cam makes their team better, and I think he fits Matt Rule's off. No, it's weird, but in this situation, it makes sense to me. And I don't think we've seen the last of P.J. Walker. Here's my hot take. We will see P.J. Walker and Cam Newton on the field this week because it's a lot to ask Cam to come into a team that he's never played for before and start and play every snap. So I think you might see a little bit of rotation.
I did read about that a little bit. I don't believe it, though. I think Cam has been doing this so long that he's going to be comfortable enough, and they're going to say, okay, let's keep him out.
Here's a hot take. P.J. Walker's start last week was better than your average Sam Darnold start by a decent amount, and they probably felt a little encouraged.
Why get Cam Newton if he's just going to be a little shuttled in and out a little bit?
All right, Greg, how about you on the Bucs?
Plus, it's like flexibility.
It feels like
I was really taken by Bruce Arians' post-game comments, and it was on Monday as well, so it was like even when he calmed down, he talked about the lack of passion from his team, and he said, we just can't show up and just expect that we're going to beat teams. Who is he talking about? Because people kind of note how he gets on Tom Brady a little bit. I don't think he was talking about Tom Brady. Maybe it was a defensive line. That was the best I could come up with. Jason Pierre-Paul, Sue, William Golston, veteran group who got pushed around a little bit last week against Washington. That's just a guess, though.
You know what? Well, first of all, Bruce Arians is a very good head coach. He's been doing this forever. He knows the right buttons to push. And when the Bucs lose going into their bye, and then get the week off, and then the extra week to get healthy and prepare, and then come out flat the next week, I think that's when, as a good head coach, you're like, all right, this is the part of the season where I got to, push some buttons, flip some levers, and try to motivate this team in a different way. So I don't read it into as like he's fired up, and maybe he is, but I didn't read it too deeply other than kind of more like a coach motivation.
I don't see it as like this one position group lacks passion, and I can identify that. I had a chance to talk with him once, and he said that if he was not a football coach, he would be a school teacher, and there's a lot of motivation and psychology with that as well. I think it's generally the Bucs, where they are in this point of the season, you can't be this flat. They got waxed by the Saints, and they turn around and lose to Washington. What's happening here? Tom Brady is the last person on the list, though, that I would suggest is passionless. I mean, this is his entire life built.
It felt like the defense because the offense played well in that game after the 2 early picks. One comes on a drop, and then they score 5 out of 7 drives, but they couldn't get the ball back. And he mentioned Devin White in particular as like, if we had more guys like Devin White, we'd be fine. But you look at it's an older defensive line that they play a lot. It's very unconventional how they keep these older defensive linemen like Soup, JPP, Shaq Barrett, your boy, playing 70, 80 snaps a game like it's the 1980s. Give him some
Greg putting him on blast.
Some rest.
You got my imagination wandering now. I'm trying to think. Bruce Arians as a school teacher, what would he teach? And for some reason I was thinking shop. I don't know, do they still have shop class anymore? And, the guy that, gets really into, shooting the rockets into the air and the cars that you make, I feel like that would be.
I feel like he's the cool history professor. He's, really hard on you.
That's good.
But at the end of the year, you realize, we've created a bond.
Yeah.
I don't see him as
call me Bruce.
I don't see him as a kindergarten teacher. I think he'd be dealing with a different level of individual.
All right, let's talk the Saints. The Saints need a W. They got to keep the wheels on the Mardi Gras float. They need a W because they're coming off back-to-back losses here. I didn't think they looked bad against the Titans by any stretch. I thought they really got unlucky, to be quite honest with you. Some things went against them. But if you don't find a way to beat the Eagles on the road, and that's not an easy game. We were just pumping up the Eagles a little bit on the show in the open. You're in trouble because then you have the Bills and Dallas back-to-back weeks. And yes, the wheels could come flying off, Greg. If you lose this week and then you have the 2 best teams arguably in the league back-to-back after that, you could go into the middle of December and be like, wow, all of a sudden we're 3 games under 500.
It's absolutely right. And yet, having watched this Saints team, first of all, I think they're going to win this Eagles game. I just think they're tougher.
Need it.
I think they're made of tougher stuff. But it would be very typical for the Saints to lose this game and then beat the Bills on Thanksgiving night, just because that's the type of team.
Well, which version of the Saints?
That's what I mean. They are the most consistent team, I believe, in the NFL. Tell me the game where the Saints kind of didn't show up, other than that Week 2 game where they'd been on the road for 7 weeks and there's a hurricane and the
Define
Panthers.
consistent, so you know what you're getting week to week, not necessarily
no one blows
wins
them
and
out.
losses.
Against great teams, against so-so teams, they're right there and they're competitive.
I know no one cares about the Week 1 win over Green Bay, but that's a quality opponent. They knocked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around, and they're only a game behind the Bucs. They aren't right now. So it's like I'm almost doing the Greg thing, which I typically don't do, where it's like even if they lost this, I still see them hanging around till the very end because their defense is loaded. If you look at how they've been graded and how they play week to week, and it's just they're pleasant to the eyes. They are the toughest kind of, I think they're like the most hurly-burly tough team in the league in terms of both lines, knocking people around. They're really well coached. They maximize their players, so they're not going anywhere soon.
Hurly-burly.
If they lose this week, though, you're right that they're in a numbers game in terms of wins.
Right. I see what you guys are saying, though. But at some point, if you lose this week, you're on a 3-game losing streak since Jameis got hurt. And then you got 2 powerhouses. It's just like get a W and you put yourself in better position. Finally, the Falcons. Tell me again how sexy the Falcons are.
All right.
Hey, Jason Brooksby, play it, please.
Oh, no.
But nothing changes. All right, get back to me on this subplot after they're at Dallas and home against the Pats. All right. If they move the ball with regularity, I will do a mea culpa on this program and the podcast about how they are spicy, they are sexy. Arthur Smith is the man.
If it goes poorly, you get back to me because that's how this You came at me last week, and so I would just. Well, first of all, I'm wearing like the same exact outfit, like I'm an action figure, so that's absurd.
That's only 2 weeks ago, too.
I know. Well, I have like 4 shirts.
3 points in these 2 games.
You know what?
I win.
You have. The car has gone completely off the road. And I mean, I would say this: they've lost people like not having Cordell or Patterson, not having Calvin Ridley. What are their weapons? And they were completely stymied. And the sexiness we mentioned that they showed earlier on is fleeting, and it is gone. It has vanished.
Listen, I'm wrong all the time on this podcast and on this TV show, but I've been trying to tell you guys all season this is who the Falcons always were. They will beat the bad teams. They will hang against okay teams.
I mean, they were sexy against the Saints a couple weeks ago.
And they will lose and sometimes get embarrassed by good teams, and that's what happened the last 2 weeks. They're the epitome, Greg, of an also-ran.
I agree. We can stick a fork in them. They're lucky to be 4-6. If they play a team with a legitimate pass rush, they're done. Right. I mean, they just have no chance. I was watching that game, and I'm thinking, if the quarterbacks switch spots, I think the Patriots would win by more. That's no slight to Mac Jones, but I love Mac Jones. No quarterback beyond maybe like peak Patrick Mahomes or like the greatest quarterbacks ever could survive in that situation. And Cordarrelle Patterson was the guy who was kind of sexy. To me, that he made that offense sexy, so you take him away and they're gone.
It's not sexy. Again, your salute to service pin is upside down.
It keeps
respect the truth.
You know what else isn't sexy was my posture on that video hit. Can someone in the back just tell me it's like you look like an idiot? Just tell me.
When you go 3rd and a half yard to taking a 14-yard sack, this is from the 14-yard line of the Pats, to making a 45-yard field goal that get penalized for illegal procedure, push back to a 50-yard field goal and miss it, that was like, it was over at that point on Thursday night.
It was the least sexy offense of the year on Thursday night.
My goodness. All right, there we go. NFC South in the books.
I didn't like what just happened.
That was awesome. Like, the rest of the show is just, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm going to sit back.
Yeah, you sit back.
And luxuriate. Up next, the NFC North, the Norris division. We're going to get to all 4 teams up next on the broadcast. All right, the Around the NFL broadcast rolls on. We hit now the NFC North feisty division here with a big showdown between two of the teams. Let's start with the Packers.
Well, the Packers, they feel totally different to me, and I would just ask you to please admire the visage of a Wisconsin-based demigod. Who am I talking about? Let's bring up the image, please.
Oh!
Who's that? I bet most people might not know. That's Joe Barry, their defensive coordinator.
Sharp chin.
Top 3 defense right now. You know, the last time that happened to them, scoring-wise, they won the Super Bowl all 3 times.
That's a great
and this is why this Packers defense is different. Isn't he a handsome man?
You know what it tells? It's like he's a dad that's like, hey, I'm a nice guy, but also if I have to turn up the heat, I will.
Yeah, it's like I'm working out a lot more than you realize. Like I can take control of.
It's just a headshot.
I'm reading more into it. I just say that this Packers team, to me, feels super legitimate because they can run the ball really well. They are a great defense, and I think Joe Barry, who was getting killed a couple weeks into the season, has won this team over. We are past the days of Dom Capers and his 1,000-yard stare up in the booth on a cold January day in Green Bay.
Well, you kind of overlooked, though, the last Packers defensive coordinator who had better talent overall. I'm just saying. Mike Pettin had better talent, healthier talent overall. That's what Joe Barry's really impressed me with, is that they've been so injured and they're this competitive. Good job by Matt LaFleur, too, in terms of his hire. Like, no one was like, great job, you hired Joe Barry. Kind of came out of nowhere, and yet looks like a great hire.
I mean, they're 8-2 this season. They went 13-3 last year. I think 13-3 the year before that. Yes, Matt LaFleur is listen, we always talk about Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, although he's taken some fire. But this LaFleur celebration needs to be, you want to talk about turning up the heat. LaFleur, I know he needs to get to the Super Bowl, but his ability to spot talent and be able to put his defensive coaches and offensive coaches in good position.
I think he needs to do have like an Al Pacino moment, doing something public which changes our perception of him, and he drops a little bit of a hammer PR-wise on.
Are you referring to Godfather Part 1 in the Italian restaurant, like that type of hammer?
Not that hammer. That doesn't work. Maybe any given Sunday.
He owns this division. That's a good start.
Yes, he does.
Greg, on the Vikings.
Oh, Vikings.
Their opponent in Week 11.
I mean, like, even when things are going well, I love that Mike Zimmer is a little cranky. I want to listen to just a little clip of someone asking him about Justin Jefferson having a big game last Sunday.
Like I told the team, you know, it takes a lot of courage to fight through adversity when everybody's shooting arrows at you. And they came here to work, and they fought like crazy all week, like they always have, and finally paid off.
He always is angry about, like, what gets revealed publicly. A reporter basically asked him, hey, Justin Jefferson, like, said that he needed the ball. Clint Kubiak, their offensive coordinator, said that he needed the ball. And he's like, he shouldn't be talking about that publicly. And that's all Mike Zimmer cares about. And yet their strategy with Justin Jefferson was fantastic last week to just throw it in single coverage. Like 36, don't go short. Just go to.
He's going to win. He's going to win most of the time. And I like this. Randy Ratio.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. What do we do here?
Well, because on the podcast you said Jefferson junk, which didn't seem
that doesn't check out.
How about the Jefferson Jubilee? That doesn't really make sense either.
A lot of syllables. Syllables.
So the ratio, because the Randy Ratio explained something to you. Like, we need to have X amount of plays for Randy Moss every game. But that's true. Like, Jefferson needs to get the ball. And when Kirk Cousins is thrown downfield, this is such a better and more dangerous offense. He's a cheat code, Justin Jefferson. Use your cheat code.
Zimmer may not like that stuff gets out there and people talk, but the talking point the week before was that Justin Jefferson was not used enough down the stretch. So he's listening to someone. But Greg, you have been so dedicated to the Mike Zimmer is annoyed with X, Y, and Z beat. I admire it. You're a dedicated journo.
You've been on top of it ever since Zimmer and his quarterback almost got into a fist fight after they won a game. This is a fascinating team to watch because, like I said on the podcast, they are the NFL. Anything can happen week to week. It's parity at its finest. Let's keep moving now. The Detroit. Oh, Mark, talk about the Bears. I cannot leave out the Bears.
We'll squeeze the Bears in here. I'm a little annoyed at this point with this team. This typist will not allow another Bearsy buzzkill. Things are starting to look up in Chicago, okay? Justin Fields is bringing
Who's the typist?
I'm the typist. I type things here and there. I type that line, the thing that you're looking at.
Okay.
You know, it's my own title for myself. But
what are you talking about?
I looked up Matt Nagy, all right? What the word Nagy means. It means big and powerful in Hungarian origin languages. Oh. And I need Matt Nagy to kind of own that. Be big and powerful. I'm tired of critiquing him. I want to see him come in and do something with Justin Fields down the stretch that absolutely changes the way this Bears team operates. Whether he's going to be there or not, don't buzzkill this with what typically happens with the Bears is something goes wrong and, you know, the whole thing goes south. I won't do it anymore. I need to see this team continue to bring hope to one of the most annoyed fan bases around.
And then they can do it.
I don't know how you're supposed to respond to that.
I mean, I'm with you. Like, Justin Fields just needs to be fun to watch. If nothing else, I am looking forward to the end of this Bears season just to watch Justin Fields. Not as much as most teams that I want to watch, but more than any Bears team that I've watched in a while. So that's something to start.
And also, you mentioned the Hungarian translation.
Right.
The English translation, the definition of naggy is someone who is likely to nag, which means to keep urging or fault-finding or complaining in an annoying fashion.
We're getting a little of both.
Now, that's something to look into as well. Like, can Nagy stay out of the way and let Bill Lazor do what he needs to do to get Justin Fields to the place where he needs to be for the Bears to be interesting in the second half of the season?
Does he even know that the Hungarian origin translation is what it is? Or does he only know the Nagy
I guarantee
word?
you he does not know. Like, if I had to put the highest amount of money, like go to the old checking account, I will push it to the center of the table and say he does not know the Hungarian definition of Nagy.
Well, how about a little self-searching?
You're putting on your kids' like college's fund.
That's how confident I am.
Okay, that's confidence.
All right, and now and everybody pick up their tomatoes and their expired lettuce and any other things that you need to do. Here's the annual hot take. Nobody wants to hear take Thanksgiving away from the Lions. I know nobody wants to hear it, but it's just something we need to do. The NFL prides itself on always improving the product, finding ways to make things more interesting, to get more eyeballs on the games, and yet we continue to give the Detroit Lions a Thanksgiving Day game. And I'm saying this, it's like the teenager who stays out past curfew. Look at it as a punishment. They're grounded, okay? Take away the keys. When the Lions put together a team that is even halfway decent to watch, we give them back the keys to the 93 Ford Escort. We're just taking it away for now.
Yeah.
And then we can put in some fun competitive teams to watch.
You set the schedule before the season. What if they're like 8-2 one year out of nowhere? Then they don't get the
show it to
the next year.
Right.
The next year with the keys of the Escort.
It's too late knowing the Lions.
I don't think they're ever getting the keys back if we take it from them. I am actually with you on this. I would say a counterpoint. You know how a lot of Thanksgivings go? It does open up sort of a guilt-free 3-hour window for like a beefy, drunken uncle to take a nap, and he's snoring in the middle of the room. The kids are wondering what he's up to, and it happens in peace because he's not missing anything when a Lions game.
It's all they got though. Like they're one of, if not the most downtrodden franchises in the NFL.
Oh man.
Well, why
and this is what they got. It's a great tradition.
Ignore that thing
Here's why.
Get more.
Because everyone watches it, whether it's the Lions or not, every year, and it is kind of strange. Like the David Blau game. You love David Blau. This year it could be Tim Boyle starting on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Every year, if you look at the end of the year, what's the most watched games all season? The Lions Thanksgiving game and the Cowboys Thanksgiving game are always in the top 5. So no matter who you
put, make it a good game.
Whoever you put out there, they're cashing those checks.
How about the product, Greg? Not just the ratings. An actual game.
Some of the games have been pretty good. Bad teams,
right.
But I'm just saying.
And by the way, Drunk Uncle doesn't do that stuff until usually after dinner, which is more in that middle game tier. The morning or the early afternoon, he's just getting warmed up.
What about Drunk Aunt? Like she's unhinged. We can't predict her movements.
You say Nagy, I say Nagy. You say Aunt, I say Aunt.
That's fair.
Drunk Aunt. That is those you gotta watch out for them.
They're perilous.
They get loose-lipped and in trouble. NFC West coming up next on the broadcast. Oh, the drunk ants. Welcome back to the broadcast. Let's hit the NFC West. We're flying. Let's start with the Cardinals. Okay, so here we are. They were supposed to be healthy now when we got to week 11, but we learned late in the week that DeAndre Hopkins will not be playing. He misses his third straight game. He's been an Iron Man in his career until now. That hamstring must be very problematic. And then my question is, Kyler Murray, by the way, is a game-time decision as well, but he's been practicing. If he does indeed play, which version will we see on the field in Week 11, Mark? We don't want to see the compromised version of Kyler Murray because we saw that guy last year and it imploded Arizona's season. Is this ankle going to allow him to do the things that makes him special?
I mean, it's a TBD, but we saw last year when he was compromised health-wise that he just wasn't the same guy, and the Cardinals faded. I mean, I don't like these things that creep up all week long. Friday, game time decision. I mean, they were patient last week with him. He did a little bit of practicing then too, and they didn't start him. I like that. It doesn't sound like they're pushing him into the lineup. I thought he spoke with kind of confidence and a little swagger this week about whether or not he'd play. So, arrow up. If he's healthy, he's the same guy. He's overcome his mistakes all year. He's been one of the most aggressive, enjoyable players to watch. You want to see him at 100%.
They got to be careful, though.
Because he could sidetrack who they are entirely.
Sprain, if he re-aggravates it, it kind of restarts the timetable, and then all of a sudden we're steaming into December.
Yeah.
I think they have been careful. My feeling was a week ago, like if that was a playoff game, Kyler Murray was playing. And I don't know if if it's a high ankle sprain or not, but as long as he can move and reset the pocket like he does when he's on the edge, he should be fine. He's been so good this year from the pocket, throwing passes over the middle, overcoming what he wasn't as great at before, that I think it's a different guy. That actually, even if he was compromised, he'd be a better Kyler this year than he was a year ago.
I love Kyler. I mean, he felt like an MVP pick before this injury. And the fact that it happened on the last play of that game.
Plenty of time to go get that MVP
interception.
Right now.
You're right.
So,
MVP race
I think you can.
Is wide open. Greg, how about the Seahawks?
The Seahawks team is playing better defensively, but the offense has been such a problem. And I do wonder if the DK Metcalf comments after last week's game are kind of the canary in the coal mine here. There's just a lot of grumbling. DK Metcalf said we have to get our playmakers the ball, and he was short with his comments. He didn't want to say more. I know you think I make everything about Geno, but it really opened up my eyes a couple weeks ago when DK Metcalf said, I have not gotten a ball in a position to make a play at the goal line the entire time I've been in Seattle, like a certain play that he made when he went up and mossed a catch against the Jaguars. I was like, that's a strange comment. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but DK Metcalf in this offense is frustrated. Russell Wilson is frustrated. Like, there's a lot going on here.
I will say, in his own words, DK Metcalf on Friday came out and said, I need to be a better team leader. It was the third time this year that I've spoken up at a turn and that Pete Carroll spoke.
We also got kicked out of the game, too.
Well, it's exactly. So I think he's acknowledging that this isn't the best way to solve that issue. I hear you on the Geno Smith thing. If Geno Smith were to be put back into the lineup for the rest of the year, I guarantee we hear from DK Metcalf again on some issue.
I'm just saying, like, imagine if OBJ said that comment about Colt McCoy. We would have led every silly sports talk show. Now, we would have made too big of a deal of it, but I think DK's telling us something here between the lines.
All right, so Russell Wilson throws one of the best deep balls we've seen in our league. The reason DK Metcalf is a star is because he has a star quarterback in Russell Wilson over the first few years. Losing begets frustration, and elite wide receivers, I don't want to stereotype them, but a lot of times they seem to be guys that get frustrated, speak out in the press, get upset about things, and then kind of put themselves ahead of their team. This is just something that happens with that position. And so I'm not into the DK stuff. I think he needs to be patient. It's been a tough season, but Russell Wilson is a guy that's going to get you the ball and get numbers.
Right.
Why get annoyed at Russell Wilson unless there's more about the relationship?
I think it was It was that game, and then it was also the way last season ended. It was a lot of holding the ball, similar for us.
I get that. The Seahawks are on a razor's edge right now. Mark on the Rams.
How about this? The Rams going into their bye week. I would just say search your inner being for truth and golden light if you're Sean McVay. I thought his comments coming out of that wipeout loss to the Niners, where he talked about the Rams being humbled, about knowing that that's not who they were the last 2 weeks. This is not a bye week where Sean McVay, up in his little Californian hillside home, is hanging out in the pool
it's not little.
and flexing muscles. Well,
Right.
It's not little, but They're going to have to get down to
His
work.
house is big.
Greg, you've not had us to your house in about 6 years.
It's
so
been 8 years.
I can't monitor that one. I would ask you this,
What's
though.
up with that?
What do they do during this bye week? Because I think we all agree that the idea that the Rams aren't tough is nonsense. I'll go tell Aaron Donald he's not tough, or Jaylen Ramsey, one of the hardest hitting tacklers in the league. There are tough players all over the roster. But last 2 weeks was problematic for them. They got out physical. How do you fix that?
What are you laughing
I don't know, just everything. The fact that Greg hasn't had us over his house in 8 years, the topic bar for this conversation, Mark's monologue.
Mark's
I don't
using
know.
the word out physical. I feel like out
that's what it
physical at
was,
this
baby.
point has become too accepted. Like at one point I was like, oh, that's kind of like a funny made-up word that football guys say. But now I hear it a lot. I hear it on sports radio.
All right, I get it.
It's
You're
too much.
filibustering, though.
I'm
What-
taking
what's
it.
the point?
I think that's an interesting conversation, the out physical conversation.
I think that we, as a football cognoscenti, make way too much over a slump. And now just because they played 2 physical teams and didn't play well, now the Rams aren't tough anymore, and the Rams could be taken advantage of.
But they weren't tough. They were pushed around by 2 big lines.
Happens. I don't understand why there's this assault on the Los Angeles Rams at 2 weeks. It's not me being some homer because the Rams play in LA. It's just like,
Because they
why
got
can't we just
smoked.
let things breathe a little bit? Why does it
get
have
you.
to be now they're cooked, now they're wimps?
No one's saying that they're cooked, but if they play a big physical team, there's not necessarily many in the NFC. The Saints are another one I can think of.
Sure.
That's a matchup problem. They haven't just lost 3 games; they've been blown out in 3 games. It's worth pointing out.
Okay. How about the Niners?
The Niners are the team that blew them out. They own them. I want to see them do it again this week against Jacksonville. But I really enjoyed a week ago when Kyle Shanahan just kept dialing up the same plays, play after play. This is something where like Eli Manning and Peyton really enjoyed it too, especially in terms of the running game. They see one play works, and they're like, you can't stop it. I'm going to call literally the same play over and over again, and you're not going to stop us. It's just like a nice little flex. It's like, I'm young enough to wear a flat brim cap. That's a little bit of a flex from Kyle. I'm going to run the same play over and over.
Although he's
That's
getting
a
on the edge of that. But
yeah, I think he's over that.
I think you're right, and anybody that's played Madden, video game, can speak to this. Like when you're playing against your buddy, and he'll get mad. He'll get frustrated. He's like, stop running the same play. Stop running the same out to Gronk or whatever. Like, well, stop it. Like, find the play in the playbook to stop it. So why not? Sometimes maybe it doesn't have to be so complicated being an offensive genius. It's just using common sense.
I love the topic. It's total psychological dark ops. I mean, you're basically breaking the opponent. I mean, they sent the Rams into their bye, despite what we just said, with 1,000 questions and criticisms because, it was like, this isn't me out-strategizing you because I'm Kyle Shanahan. It's me saying, I have something that you can't stop. I'm going to do it over and over, and you're going to have to think about it on your bye week. You're not going to have fun. You're not going to go to France or out to dinner. You have to sit around and think about it.
Mark locked up the Rams last week over the 49ers, and yet I haven't seen Mark this excited about an NFL team all year as he is
that
about
just
the 49ers
like football.
including the Browns.
We grew up with the Bill Parcells Giants, and they'd win games 10-3, and it was like, oh, it's not enough passing yards for you. You don't like it. It's not entertaining. If it's like, let's go beat someone up, it's like it was a harkening back to that, and it was Shanahan doing it.
That's where they're at their best too, and he does a lot of the window dressing where it looks different before the play. But if anyone, Sean McVay should know how that works. Like that's who he learned it from.
And I'm buying into like the San Francisco can make a run now and put some things together. But I'm also leaving it open, and you look at like the league and where we're at this season, that they could go to Jacksonville against a improving defense and stink again on offense.
Yeah, because nothing makes sense. I think
that absolutely is in play. Right. So it's like, okay, they look really good in prime time when everyone's watching the game, but let's see what happens on the road in Florida. All right, I don't need the double buzzer. The point needed to be made. Let's go. Coming up next on the broadcast. Let's take a pause from the team-by-team madness to pose a question. Who's better? Up next on the broadcast. By Truist. All right, we already talked about a big showdown in the NFC North. Packers, Vikings. Who's better, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins? And now factor in all the things at play here. We know Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback, Mark, but Aaron Rodgers has not always been so good against this team, and Cousins has had a nice season.
It's fair. He's had his troubles against the Vikings defense here and there, but I'd really struggle to not suggest that Kirk Cousins can have troubles against this Packers defense too. So I'm going Aaron Rodgers because I think Aaron Rodgers is in a better environment than he's been in a long time with the ground game. I know you don't have Aaron Jones, but A.J. Dillon was totally amazing last week. I love watching him play. He brings a style. To me, he gives them so much identity on the ground. That is what Aaron Rodgers needs, something around him. So I like the Packers environment better than what Cousins has going on.
Aaron Rodgers' numbers against Mike Zimmer defenses are way down. Like, he's a top 3 quarterback in terms of adjusted yards per attempt in his career. Against Mike Zimmer, he goes to close to league average.
He's
still way better than Kirk Cousins in general, but this week in this matchup and the way Kirk Cousins is playing, and oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers just had COVID-19 and said how exhausted he was after last week's game, and I kept thinking, like, everyone kind of thought, like, oh, it was a tiring week because people were making fun of you. Well, how about the fact that you just had COVID-19? That's pretty exhausting. Like, I don't know. He's been better.
Yes, and
Cousins has been better at avoiding that as well.
I like the Aaron Rodgers versus Mike Zimmer angle. Maybe that's more appropriate here. But again, Kirk Cousins, it's so funny. Every year he kind of gets overlooked. And I know numbers, he's a 500 quarterback career-wise, but he's on pace again for 4,200 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions.
I have a stat for Next Gen Stats. Since they've kept track, which is 5 years, he has the highest completion percentage this year of throws over 10 yards than any quarterback in any season.
Kirk Cousins is good.
He's good. He's good.
All right.
He's not bad.
No one here.
He's not better than Aaron Rodgers, sorry.
All right. Up next, who's better? Dak Prescott or Patrick Mahomes, Greg?
I mean, I got to make this decision every week. It's an easy one. It's Dak Prescott right now. Like, are we going to just evaluate, what?
Easy decision.
Yeah, right now, are we evaluating this season or are we evaluating 1 week? First of all, Dak Prescott was just as good as Patrick Mahomes last week. And I'm more talking about the season before I trust that Patrick Mahomes is all the way back. The decision-making that Prescott has, to me, is among the very best, and that's where Mahomes has struggled, really, making decisions.
I have to agree with you. I mean, if we're talking right now, are you saying who?
I'm saying right now, not career, not
talking.
history.
Right now he is. I mean, he's been essentially flawless outside of the Denver game, which wasn't entirely on him. And I know that with Patrick Mahomes, the Raiders outing has people, very hot in the pants about what could happen down the stretch with them, but I'm not totally buying in on that yet. The variance for this offense is going to allow a game like that, but it also allows what we saw the previous couple months.
So you guys are hot in the pants about the Cowboys. I already had one slam dunk win with the Falcons in the show. Now, too, I get to say Patrick Mahomes is better than Dak Prescott. Now, last year, a year from now, yes.
Yeah, but that's me with Aaron Rodgers versus your Kirk Cousins stats,
now,
please.
This season.
This week.
This
season as a whole?
Yeah.
Dak.
Yeah.
Right now? Mahomes. Tomorrow? Mahomes. Yesterday?
Sunday.
Mahomes.
We'll revisit this. We'll revisit.
Circle back
on Sunday.
I don't know about this.
You could do. Why? You think you want to jump over to the Mahomes side? It's not too late.
No, I'm like staying with my choice of Dak Prescott. You just said that on the season on the whole, it's not Dak Prescott.
It's right now.
Not Mahomes.
There are no reverse gears in this tank, Mark. We move forward.
It's a rare move where they just went to they went to moving on. Just be quiet, guys.
Let's move on.
Horn.
Get back to the teams and move to the other conference, the AFC. Oh, man.
Don't cut us.
Let's get excited. Welcome back to the second hour of the Around the NFL broadcast, your program that hits every team in the league. You're going to get a conversation about your favorite team on this program. We hit the NFC in the first hour, and the AFC is coming up now. And let's start with the AFC East. I'll start with the Pats, one of the hottest teams in football. Thursday Night Football, they romped over the Falcons. The Pats are surging, but are you buying the super hype? The hype is out of control around the Patriots right now. I know they're a great story, but are you buying the super hype, Greg?
I mean, you were starting it weeks ago.
All right, let me tell you
Mark, too, he picked them to the Super Bowl.
So,
right.
Well, Mark picked 17 teams to the Super Bowl in various outlets with our site and
not accurate
network. But I picked the Pats as a team that are a playoff team. That's still what I think they are. But now the narrative has shifted nationally that this is now 2001 Part 2. And Mac Jones is the new young Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick has figured everything out, and this team is just going to roll week to week. I just don't buy that they're at that level, that they're a superpower. I think they're a good ascendant team. That's all.
I don't know. Like, we don't know.
It's possible to have a take in the middle. It doesn't always have to be one or the other.
We don't know much about this team because they haven't beaten a good team. The Browns were by far the best team that they've beaten, and that's a team that you have questions for and that they absolutely outcoached. That was their ceiling. But other than that, we're going to learn a lot more when they play Tennessee and Buffalo in the next 2 weeks. The surprise to me is how well the defense is playing together. And I know this was against Atlanta, but it happened against Cleveland too. They're cohesive. Hightower and Van Noy are getting after it. They have not missed Stephon Gilmore. Their pass rush is better than it's been since the mid-aughts. That I can say as a Patriots fan. Barmore and Judon. So that surprises me. With a good defense, like, they got a chance.
I mean, they fell to the Buccaneers by 2 points. They took the Cowboys to overtime when they were still forming what they are. They are wrecking teams right now. I think the thing about them is that in an AFC that's so inconsistent, they grow more consistent weekly. They're not going to be outcoached. Belichick is out-scheming everyone else. I think he's enjoying what he's seeing. And yes, they look dangerous to me. I don't need to have, super hyperbole about the whole thing, but they're rounding into shape like Patriots teams of old.
To me, Buffalo is still the AFC favorite. And then I put the Patriots in that group behind them with the Chiefs and the Titans and anyone else.
You know what I can't wait for? Home against the Titans, on the road in Buffalo. That's their next 2 games. Let's see where they're at after that. Maybe this will be a different chance for a mea culpa. If they roll over both those teams, I'll have no choice but to say, wow, this is a legit Super Bowl contender in the AFC. I'm not too worried, though. There's your sound.
They've never done you wrong before, the Patriots.
Greg on the Bills.
Josh Allen's coming off one of the best games any quarterback's played all season, so I feel bad for pointing out a flaw. But there's one thing I think Josh Allen has to improve on to kind of get to that next level, and that's his awareness and just like knowing when pressure is coming in the pocket. And I'm thinking of this play last week where he was just drilled from the backside like that. You just don't see great quarterbacks not know the guy is coming into the last minute like that too often, and that's where the fumbles happen for Josh Allen. There's still been a lot of turnover-worthy plays this season out of Allen, and so that's like the one thing I think he can clean up.
He's got a bit of a, I kind of like his daring do. I mean, he's the best passer in the league on throws of 10-plus yards. I mean, he's going to give you that. There may be some things to clean up, but the one thing, think where we were 2 years ago with Josh Allen. Totally wondering if he was functional, and he shows an ability to grow and evolve as a quarterback. And so, yeah, it is something to clean up. But he's also got Brian Daboll with him, who, if they don't blow the doors off on offense, they might luck into keeping Brian Daboll another year, and that just means more offseason growth and more growth for Josh Allen. So I don't freak out over this one.
No, I'm not freaking.
No freaking. I think he's always looking to make the play downfield. He's exactly what you want in a QB, but maybe he doesn't have that innate ability some of the greats do to sense pressure. That's all right.
It's a little like, it reminds me a lot of Ryan Tannehill and Cam Newton. Two guys who have taken bigger hits over the last decade than almost any quarterbacks.
And two, stars, two big-time players. So I guess you take the good with the bad. I want to see the Bills do what they did to the Jets against the Colts before I'm totally like Brian Daboll and the Bills offense is back to unstoppable status, but that was a nice get-right game and a perfect opponent for the Bills.
It wasn't yet. Like, the throws Josh Allen made in that game were outrageous. Patrick Mahomes, if Patrick Mahomes had made those throws that Josh Allen made in a primetime game, people would be going bananas. It was one of the most fun games. Like, if you're getting really bored this weekend, you want some Game Pass, just watch Josh Allen's throws against the Jets.
But not at Greg's house, because you're not getting invited to Greg's house. So.
Yeah. That's true. I like that you little sugar and a little bit of spice.
Here's what it is. It's like my house. It's got that backyardish area, but there's like 15 different apartments that look over at it that can hear everything.
We don't mind.
It's like a.
We don't mind.
They mind.
We like to be watched.
I mind.
Who cares about them? All right, let's go with the Jets. Let's go with the Dolphins.
All right, the Dolphins.
Sorry.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? A movie reference totally lost on the two people to my right. That's okay. But the Dolphins,
we're not cinephiles like Mark.
What,
it's
Awakenings
with a blockbuster film that is far from like
okay,
a
what was
cinephile
it?
region. The Force Awakens. There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? I'm not even getting into that business. But the Dolphins, do you sense?
You started the business. You got into it.
Because I think we're chipping away.
I thought it was Awakening starring Robert Williams you were maybe thinking about.
No, cinephile. No, it wasn't. How about this? But the Dolphins defense. Do you buy into, like, you look at this, cover zero magic train they rode against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They, to me, last year and under Brian Flores have been so creative with what they've done to different types of quarterbacks. Does this carry over? You look at their schedule; it's pretty soft. I see a team that can climb back into this race if they're legit on this side of the ball.
I do feel it. I think it's coming. I think they were good against the Bills. They were great against the Texans defensively, and just like Bill Belichick, they're such a complex defense that I do think a veteran group comes together as the season goes along, and they get better as the season goes along. So I'm kind of buying in on the defense at least.
Yeah, they need to fatten up here against some lesser teams to even have a pulse. I'm not ready to buy in that the Dolphins are going to matter in December, but maybe they've already hit their rock bottom because it was pretty bad earlier this year, and now they're going to get back to being a respectable, well-coached team. And all due respect to what Flores did against the Ravens, which was play to the strengths of his secondary and really get after a quarterback. That was fun to watch. Now you need Tua to take the next step. Their team.
Now you got to do it against Joe Flacco.
Tall order. Well, I would say Brian Flores, though, in his run, has been the sixth best coach league-wide from November to January, win-loss. Like, they start to peak as the season goes on.
Good stat.
Great stat.
Well, it's the truth.
From the Cessla. I have not seen The Force Awakens.
I'm
or
not
any of the Star Wars
I
films.
regret bringing it up. It's a fruitless journey.
Jets misery operates on levels that most cannot even fathom, let alone understand. Let's just, because we kind of breezed over it, because who cares? Because the Jets are irrelevant. But just to put the last couple of weeks in perspective, Cincinnati game, Mike White comes out of nowhere, has this amazing game that captures the imagination of the fan base and the national media. Okay? 4 days later, primetime game. You get a lot of excitement built up after what happened against Cincinnati with Mike White and what he did. He gets hurt on the second series, out of the game. They get absolutely embarrassed in primetime, and everything else goes back to misery for the Jets. A week later, Mike White now back on the field, throws 4 interceptions and gets completely taken apart by the Buffalo defense. And the Jets defense, and this is the levels I'm talking about, the Mike White fairy tale completely off the rails and gone. And the defense now is on the worst stretch in the history of the organization. Statistically, they are the first team to allow at least 45 points 3 times in a 4-game span since the '66 Giants. 5 of the last 6 opponents have at least 400 yards of total offense. It is misery that most cannot even understand.
Counterpoint. It's a very patiently run 43-year rebuilding plan that will at some point produce fruit.
I actually thought Mark was going to push back on this because he used to be very defensive about that the Browns fans had felt as much pain as the Jets fans, but now I think he's conceding that territory to you. Congratulations.
I am currently right now.
Yeah, your team is not an embarrassment.
They annoy me.
I feel like
they're annoying.
Right now, if you had to redo the pain rankings, the great article, everyone should check it out. Great series. I think the Lions and the Jets.
What a battle.
It's a battle.
What a showdown it would be. So anyway, Joe Flacco's starting on Sunday. Get back to me, Jets, when you get Zach Wilson back on the field, and it matters because that's all that's left for the Jets.
That's my prediction. I think they looked at the
evaluation
schedule and they saw the Texans next week and say, let's bring the young boy back.
I don't like Saleh.
It makes sense.
I don't like Saleh saying that Zach Wilson needs to have more confidence in where his knee's at. I'm not sure it's next week. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, well, we will find out. I'm sure it will work out well for the Jets, no matter what. Up next on the broadcast, the AFC West. Oh, What a division. What intrigue. What disappointment. What excitement. You got it all here.
I love every
next.
week when you say, "Oh, what a division for one of them." That's my favorite.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Let's hit the AFC West. All right, and here we go. We'll start with the Chiefs. Mahomes is about to tear the league apart. Go ahead, because I know you like to take the dissenting opinion with things, Greg. Take it.
Don't put me in a corner. And if you're trying to say that I'm going to take the dissenting opinion, then the dissenting opinion now would be to agree with you. You see what I did there?
Oh, no. I do see, and I actually like that. That was well done.
I don't know about tear the league apart, but I think he'll play better the rest of the year because he's been a better player than he showed for a month. He was a better player in September. The first 4 weeks, I thought he played quite well for the most part. And then he had about a month stretch where he was bad. I'm just not sure I'm expecting MVP Mahomes to come back right away.
I don't really have this whole season have not distrusted who Mahomes is. He's been through a rough patch in an offense that's gone through struggles too. But are we really worried that he's not the same player on any level?
Well, he's not even as good as Dak Prescott anymore. So
yes, in this game,
that's obvious.
The overall offense is the issue too. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I think, could do what he did last week multiple more times. But you're basically saying that the troubles they were having will vanish.
It's just a hunch. It's not based on anything else because they have been up and down. They've had big games on offense, even when after that September window, it was like, okay, maybe now they'll be okay. So maybe that is going to continue to be an issue, inconsistencies. But I think I'm just banking on the greatness of Mahomes to ultimately win out in a year of frustration.
Plus, he's in the AFC West, where every matchup is pretty advantageous defensively. There's no other good defenses in the AFC West. This is a week where I think it's a real test because even though the Cowboys are short or thin up front in terms of their pass rushers, they get after it. They play good team defense. If he puts 40 up against the Cowboys, then I'm totally buying it. I think that's different than the Raiders.
I'd hold your hand right into that situation if that happens.
That's nice.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, I'd be agreeing with Greg.
Right now?
Do it now.
I mean, no.
Hold his hand.
Down the road.
And by the way, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos are about to talk about you guys, but you had your chance. You had a chance to run away and hide from the Chiefs.
America saw that rejection Mark just gave me right there.
I don't even know if you're allowed to do that on television, so I don't.
It's questionable.
Yeah.
Would have been awkward if you did it, actually.
All right.
Very much so.
Let's talk. Let's have some fun. Play NFL Knockout, the free-to-play game presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Answer 15 questions about the Cowboys-Chiefs game to win exclusive prizes, including a VIP package to this year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. Visit NFL.com/knockout. mention the Chargers, Greg. Let's talk.
Yeah. Let's have a knockout win on Sunday night by the Chargers because we're going there. Blowouts can be entertaining, especially if it's Justin Herbert lighting up the skies. He is 32nd out of 37 qualifiers in average depth of target.
Can't happen.
How are you making Justin Herbert boring? This is my guy I looked forward to going into this season more than any, and it's dink and dunk, and I don't want to see it. This Steelers defense is not the same anymore. Go over the top, bombs away, put on a show for Sessler and Kansas and me.
Mike Williams, where are you at? We need you, buddy.
You're in my camp, so boring. A blowout does not
Scream, Mark.
boring.
We're screaming this segment.
I don't need to scream about this. Like, when I go to a stadium, I'll probably spend most of the time people watching and just sort of seeing what the whole vibe is. But
Watch the game. We're going to talk about
I think Brandon Staley is one of the guys I can align with. He's one of my favorite coaches. But they've got to figure this offense out. It's not been the same. And that was our one concern in the offseason. Will it be less watchable than a year ago? And it has been, because it's been a lot of short little passes. They're taking away the deep ball from Justin Herbert, and it's worked the last couple of weeks.
Don't be boring, Chargers. You are the darling of the league. Everybody was looking for a new hype bunny, and the Chargers seem to fit the bill with this great young quarterback and their fancy, pretty uniforms. And now we fast forward, and it's just like, where are we at? What are we going to do? Are we going to be, again, a team at the end of December and the early January be like, man, they're better than this record? Don't be that team. You have a chance to figure things out. You have talent on both sides of the ball, but they haven't been good on offense, and they have not been good enough on defense. It's been both sides of the ball that have been disappointing, and Brandon Staley is a defensive coach.
Right. The snooze fest, though, has been the Steelers. Like, they concern me on the boring front. Like, I think the Chargers.
Right. Well, we kind of know what we're going to get. Right.
Yes.
Right. We know what we're going to get from the Steelers, so it's the Chargers that I want to put on a show. We're there. There's a lot of pressure on them, frankly.
I think they're going to respond.
With us in the building.
Right,
The Around the NFL podcast pop that you get when you go in, it's kind of what made this Rams team over the last 5 years.
The way you said it, you're going to be people watching. It's like when you take your kid to a game and you spend like $300 and you spend the game just walking the concourse and buying things that are overpriced. I like the idea of walking around with you, Mark, and just like getting some cotton candy. Here's a Chargers banner. Here's a Herbert.
Too. You buy lots of items and you send in the expense report.
Mark, how about the Raiders?
How about this, Raiders? I know it's been a really rough month, and I would just say let's do it for Little Debbie. Do we?
Who is Little Debbie?
Okay, so Little Debbie is a friend of our podcast. She is a Bay Area rapper. There she is in her Raiders jersey, having visited us a number of years ago.
Our old producer, the Irishman, Brandon McGinnis.
Die-hard Raiders fan, and she's not mentioned her Raiders fandom in a while, and I think it's because maybe she's probably a little down about this experience. Haven't spoken with her, so that's just conjecture on my part. But Raiders, how about delight us, get back on track?
She's ride or die. She's with it. I mean, I think she's a fan. She's got to be enjoying this season.
Well, I hope Little Debbie's doing well. I have her on my Spotify mix occasionally. Good stuff. Can we bring that photo up again? Because I do wonder if Mark picked it, because look how he's dead center. He's like, it's me and my gang.
Well, it's the only photo I have of the group, so there wasn't like a B or C shot to pick from.
He's also younger in it, but that's true of all of us, I guess. So it's
definitely true of all of us.
It is good. Look at Wes. Look at Wes in the shot.
Looks great.
Early man.
Little Debbie is a great example, though, of this, how they've cultivated this fan base that's, whether they were in Oakland, whether they're in Los Angeles, now they're in Vegas. People are making trips over to Vegas. They've done a nice job there. Let's give them a good product. For the most part this season, they've done.
I'm worried about the Raiders. A lot has happened with this team, obviously, and they were in the same position last year. They had the same record at this time last year. I think they were 6-4 last year. And Derek Carr, and their quotes floating around this week, this isn't the same as last year, referring to the 2019 season. And then they did the same thing. And now here we are, a week before Thanksgiving, and the Raiders are in the exact same position where they're over 500. They're in the playoff race, but there are serious signs of distress. Is it going to happen again?
This game reminds me of Saints-Eagles in the NFC. I just feel like it's such a crossroads game, because both these teams are not as good as their record indicates in my mind, but one of them's going to get a win and really right the ship.
I like it. We talked about it on the show. Crossroads, Bone Thugs and Harmony, the video, the Miss My Uncle Charles Bowl. I miss my Uncle Charles.
You sell it. Sing it.
Broncos. Teddy Two Strikes. Bridgewater at a crossroads.
Ouch, 1 minute.
So dumb.
Yes.
How about their defense at a crossroads?
How about that? Teddy Two Strikes. That's pretty good, though. What I mean by that is this is for Bridgewater, a guy that has been a QB1 in theory for his whole career as he approaches. He's got to be getting close to 30 now. This is a big end of the season for him to kind of establish himself and say, I am the guy to build, not necessarily build around like he's a franchise quarterback, because we know he's not that, but to be a guy that when the Broncos look at their roster after the season's over, wherever this thing ends up, and say, we got to get better here, here, and here, and here. Is it going to be him again that ends up getting swept out? We'll see. I'm not even going to bury him about what happened with the tackle situation, Greg, when he dodged Darius Slay against the Eagles, because he manned up on that and admitted he should have went for the ball carrier there. So it's not really about that, but I just think with the Broncos, a team that's still in the mix,
he's a free agent after this season. I think if he keeps up this level of play, it'll be his best season as a starter since he was in Minnesota. I think he's playing better than you guys think, at least.
Yet they will strive to replace him.
Right, he's an Alex Smith type. He's in that zone.
Teddy's okay. But he's a guy, he's always, when a team's like...
he's got to be 1B.
When a team's looking to get better, he's a guy that's like,
tough sell.
Better there. AFC North is coming up next. That means we're going to talk the Brownies, Marky.
Browns.
Roof. Oh, yeah, we're back. Broadcast time. Up next, the AFC North. Mark, we're going to start with one of your personal favorites, the Baltimore Ravens.
Personal favorite, yes. How about this? Obsessing over Lamar hides the real El Problema in Baltimore, which is the defense, which, you know, Dave Damashek, our friend, had this one tweet a week ago, which I thought was so spot on, that just because they prance around in purple helmets and jerseys, we just assume the defense is notoriously ready to destroy. And it's just not been the case. It's not been the case. Too many missed tackles, too many big plays given up. They've allowed 25 plus in 5 different games. This is not the Ravens defense of old. I'm not saying they can't fix the problems, but you can't just count on them to dominate on that side of the ball. And it's not just about Lamar and how to deal with Lamar's issues,
right,
with the blitz and the sacks and all that stuff.
Lamar's the only reason this team's good. I mean, the defense is 25th in DVOA, and yet I still feel like the biggest shortcoming in this segment is Mark not knowing it's El Problemo.
No,
I mean,
actually,
El is masculine, Problema's feminine, right?
This is the thing that this is when you get you walk into so many issues with this assumption, because I came in here 30 minutes before the show, and multiple sources confirmed how to correctly spell and pronounce.
This is why I failed Spanish a year after
You just didn't need to jump on that.
Whoa, this is a sobering moment for Mr. Rosenthal.
It's a little tough.
Had a few.
It's a little tough.
Tough sitch. How about another little Latin mea culpa? Do you?
I mean, I apologize, and I mean, who's really obsessing about Lamar struggling though? He had one bad game.
That's
He's an MVP
that's a
candidate.
nice attempt to get out of that. You don't need to apologize to me, Greg. Just other people.
Speaking of time check, were you here in the 5 a.m. hour for this?
Not today, no.
But you were one time.
It was in the 5 a.m. hour. This is a we digress here.
A producer in my ear just said that Slack's messaging, instant messaging, being sent in the 5 a.m. hour today.
From my house.
Wow.
I also don't sleep, but it was from my house, and
There's a lot of studies about sleep, just how important it is.
We're
Sleep
sorry,
and
Baltimore
food.
Ravens fans. We
yeah.
failed you.
I tried.
We failed you this week, but we promise to be better next week. How about Greg on the Steelers?
The Steelers team is one that I like to look forward to in terms of the press conferences, especially Mike Tomlin. This week, to start his press conference, he spoke uninterrupted for 18 straight minutes. And then at the end of it, he was like, okay, I'll let you guys do your thing. Mark, if you had to speak for 18 minutes uninterrupted about any topic, like what could it be? What would it be?
It would be wide-ranging because a true filibuster, you need to go from A to B to C. It'd probably start with like a dissertation on, forest animals of good nature, and then you just see where it goes from there. Maybe pass it off to Dan, like a tag team filibuster.
Well, there's an amazing in Parks and Rec.
Paltrow, I think you'd throw in there.
That's not you.
The NBC show Parks and Rec, one of the better comedy sitcoms of the last 20 years. Patton Oswalt had an amazing filibuster on Star Wars that I know you're familiar with, Mark, and I know you would have gotten every reference that he made during that. Maybe I could see you doing that.
I mean, it sounds like someone's done it. Patton Oswalt's probably done it better than Mark Sussler could have. But,
I mean, 18 minutes is an outrageous time.
What did he talk about?
To stop. The opponent, his team, football, and it's just like that's a strategy, I guess. If you're a coach,
Like running out the clock, basically.
It's a Belichick move on Fridays, right?
I don't know if there's a strategy or what it is. I just was thinking how tough it is. Like when you hear those radio hosts who do shows for 2 hours by themselves, I find that unappealing. Like no matter how good they are, but it does take quite a level of confidence and ability to do that. Yes.
So that is a good question. Like, makes me.
What would you talk about for 18 minutes?
Oh, I don't know. The 1997 U2 album Pop, and why it's not
okay.
properly rated.
That's a good one.
Job might fit.
I would listen.
It's a good record. Well, I mean,
I would love if
revisit.
Tomlin had talked about that for 18 minutes and not a football topic at all.
But did he have prepared notes that he just wanted to hit?
I don't
curious.
think so.
Or he's just like shoot. He's been doing this a long time.
He went through like every player on the Chargers and why they were great and his injuries. We apologize to Steelers fans too.
We promise
the entire
we'll be better
AFC North
next week. Greg, how about the Bengals? Let's try this again.
This Bengals team, you called it the Uncle Charles Bowl. I'm calling it the Stop the Bleeding Bowl in Vegas this weekend. This Bengals defense, I feel wronged by them. Like, remember the Mike White era? That was because of the Bengals defense. Remember Baker Mayfield turned things around and he's great without OBJ.
He's walking into the building with purpose.
That was because of the Bengals defense. So stop the bleeding and get some stops against the Raiders. Get a win. This is a big one for them.
I wonder if they, against the Raiders, do they take the approach? Joe Burrow's been really good with quick passes. And that's what Mahomes did early on to deflect the pass rush. Like, they've got to get on target. You got to get Jamar Chase back into it. I mean, there's all this trust in Burrow. I share it too, but they've not been the same on offense. I do. I think you guys think that I ping him for these interceptions. I've just
Don't you guys me? I have no issue with
I just say that he leads the league in picks. They're not all on him, but last year at this time he had 5 in 10 games.
It's the defense, though. I mean, the defense has given up 75 points in back-to-back losses, and Captain Lou Albano, no. Defensive coordinator is Lou Anarumo.
Right.
And statistically speaking, in the first 7 weeks, they had one of the better defenses, but then you saw how easily they got exposed. So I think a big part of the season, and I don't think anybody wants the Bengals to like fade into obscurity in December. I think that was a fun story that made the league more interesting to follow. I really do hope that they find a way to put it all together, but there are a lot of reasons to be concerned.
Isn't it to stop the bleeding bowl because we don't really trust the Raiders to do all that too?
We don't trust either. I trust the two quarterbacks, though. I mean, I guess maybe I'm picking up the wrong vibes that you're, wondering why people are just crowning Joe Burrow. Because you mentioned him compared to last year. To me, he has made a huge second-year leap. And I now am so in on that. He is. I know it. He's a franchise quarterback. He's going to be great for a while. That's how I believe.
I more just am giving up on a lot of topics that, a month ago I was excited about.
Is it because Burrow has replaced Mayfield in the AFC North as, you're my number one boy, as the number one overall pick?
It's been that kind of energy around, the Burrow versus Mayfield thing, and the fan in me is displeased with how it's going.
Hey, you nailed it. Good job.
I felt it.
But I'm not saying he's not a good
really
quarterback.
Recovered well from that the Espanol mishap.
I am taking the L on this show.
All right, the old Zeuser, that's me. I'm going to talk some Browns right now. And will the real Cleveland Browns please stand up? We'd like to see ya. This is annoying. I like to have some things in life that I know what they are. Like I know who the Steelers are. I know what the Steelers are week to week. The Browns, no idea. I mean, against the Patriots, that was a game that was an important game for them to really start to build some momentum after they spanked Cincinnati the week before, and they just get embarrassed. And I know you didn't have Nick Chubb, but you can't just use an injury to a running back to explain away all the struggles. It was on both sides of the ball. So you get, in my opinion, Mark, a layup here against Detroit to get right. But at that point, I'm not going to be necessarily all in either. I mean, I got to see more from this team.
It's totally fair. They've not showed up when they've needed to against good opponents. I think the Patriots game, the Patriots tend to set teams on fire. That's what's been going on lately. And it's the first time you heard whispers that Kevin Stefanski and his coaching staff were not prepared. They weren't able to adjust. I mean, the game looked like it. They were out physical. The Patriots had a better plan. And
Who do you think the real Browns are?
I think the Browns are a 8-9 team.
Wow.
Or 9-8.
If that's true, then what you're saying is it's not about should the real Cleveland Browns stand up. They have already done it.
I think
They've
they're
stood
standing
up and said, we're fine some weeks, we're bad other weeks, we're good other. They're just a mediocre team.
They've had a lot of injuries, but I think the real Cleveland Browns are showing us who they are, and there's a lot to work on in the offense.
I still think that they can finish strong because of the offensive line and the running game is special, and the talent on defense is good. So I agree with you. Like, I don't know who this team is, but I'm kind of over the question of, like, will the real Baker stand up? To me, after 4 years, like, this is him.
Yeah.
This is him. It's up and down, and it's in the middle, and that's the real Baker to me. But the Browns team could be better than this.
That's a problem, though.
Here's where it gets really interesting is if they go 8-9, if they go 9-8, and nothing special happens in January, Baker has 1 year left on his rookie deal. What will the Browns do then? A lot of intrigue, a lot of palace intrigue in Berea.
Sashi Brown got a
It's better than the Indian burial ground
this week. Your old buddy Sashi Brown in the news.
Good for Sashi.
Sashi. All right, coming up next, the AFC South, which means we're going to get to 4 teams, Mark and Greg. That's how it works. We're going to talk about 4 of them.
There's just like one guy out there that loves the AFC South. Why are we always last?
It's been every show.
I think this show, they're all getting 2 minutes. I'm going to think optimistically, but it's out of our hands.
It's not our show.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I remember growing up and going to church with my mom and brother and sister, and it would just be clock watch. And I just, in the middle of Sunday Mass, and I'd look up and I need that 45 minutes to just, and it just went so slowly. So now what we're going to do here, we're going to stare at the clock like we're at St. Margaret's. And is it going to be 2 minutes? 1 minute. AFC South, 1 minute. AFC South. Here we go. Mark on the Titans. Give me 2.
Sounds like the message really got through to you there.
Best team in the AFC. Come on.
They deserve 2. I'd ask this: is Mike Vrabel overlooked because he's not some shiny brain boy? Like whenever they talk about who wins Coach of the Year and all these think pieces get written. I love this. Well, it's serious because
like, look at Mike Vrabel. He is a guy you would think is just like a big bruising jock.
Sure.
And yet he's just out scheming and beating these shiny brain boys on a weekly basis.
And I would say that, like, if you talk about Coach of the Year, you talk about who these guys are, he just constantly gets overlooked for just what you mentioned. I think he's not presenting the image that they want of this, like, mastermind that's a craftsman.
Be the change. You should be starting to push for Vrabel.
I've just raised it here on the show.
I love it.
I'm with you.
I love this.
Forum.
I love this theory. You're right. He should be the Coach of the Year right now. He has a pulse on his team. They win games in different types of ways. And it reminds me of, like, the idea that, you know, a lot of people in the media kind of get by the analytically driven GMs because on some level they remind them of themselves. You can imagine being that type of GM if you're just a nebbish little man like myself.
Nebbish.
Whereas you look at Mike Vrabel, and none of us think that we could have been Mike Vrabel. Like, so we don't identify. We think maybe we could be Kyle Shanahan, but we could never be Mike Vrabel.
I like Greg's take on this.
I've only heard, like, nebbish is like Woody Allen gets described as nebbish. And
I mean, if the shoe fits, at least in terms of body type.
Not Mike Vrabel.
I would never call you that, Greg. I like the way you look, and I don't even think you're saying that you don't like the way you look, but nebbish is not usually a characteristic that people
I'll look it up, but to
positively.
me it just means like small and kind of like.
I think you nailed it for what you were trying to do with it.
Vrabel, great coach, and if they end up going 12-5 or 13-4 with Derrick Henry out half the year, he deserves the trophy.
All right, I mean, you guys were right. It means a pitifully ineffectual, luckless, and timid person. So I didn't actually quite mean it.
I don't see you as all those things.
Luckless,
ineffectual, and timid. That's tough.
All right, how about the Houston Texans? This has got to be 1 minute, right? 2 minutes, 1 minute?
I mean, for this topic, it's got to be one. My topic I'm going one. It's got to be
2. Oh! Well, they deserve it this time.
What an upset. Culture schmalter, indeed.
I don't know how I'm stretching 2 minutes out of culture schmalter here. This is what they spent the off week talking about in Houston. Nick Caserio and the GM, he gave this long diatribe about what culture means to him and how they're integrating culture. And none of it means anything. If you hear former players talk about and asked about culture, they're like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Here's what culture is. Win some games, then you'll have some culture. If you lose games, there's no culture.
I am with you. Who seems happier on our planet than Mark Ingram, who got out of there and landed with a team with real culture, the New Orleans Saints? I mean, it's like, I think that at this point, what are you telling the players in the locker room? I'm just going to lose them.
They're not going to be the players that are going to be there in a few years when, in theory, they're good anyway.
We did 1 minute on the Texans last week, and I remember giving that same monologue that everything here feels temporary. Everyone there knows it. Just put on some good tape because you're probably going to be elsewhere. The city of Houston has incredible culture. Great music,
underrated
food, the whole vibe of Houston. It's a great city. But the team, there's no culture here. There's still 50 seconds left. This felt like a perfect 60-second team.
I'm fine with it. We can guess about what happens after this season because I know ownership believe like, okay, we got to reset, we got to start over. It's going to be a long rebuilding process. You might feel a little differently after you're 1-16. Like, are you really sticking it out with this rebuilding plan? That's it.
But if you move on from some of these people, who is going to come in and want to take that job?
I kind of like the Texans, though, to cover this week, 10.5 points. I'm stretching. I'm trying to come up with a hot take.
Explain that in 15 more seconds, Greg.
The Titans' offense not moving the ball at all. It's a division matchup. Tyrod's back. I feel like they cover that 10.5. That's almost as good.
One of my favorite TV movie tropes is like, okay, we got the guy in the line, but we need to trace the call, but we need 10 more seconds.
absurd.
That was the biggest upset of the week, them getting 2.
We did it. How about the Colts? We got to get 2 minutes on the Colts. I mean, obviously. Yes. Okay. Good job. All right.
Johnny Sticks back there on the drums. I love that guy.
Johnny Sticks, like him. Carson Wentz apologist. That's me. Carson Wentz is not to be trusted. I can't. I was pounding the drum all offseason that was a smart move by Chris Ballard and Frank Reich to get Carson Wentz in the building to replace an aging Phil Rivers, who went into semi-retirement. I still believe all that, and I think on balance, when you look at where the Colts are at 500, but more importantly, where Wentz is, and you look at his numbers and the fact that he stayed healthy after that early scare with the ankles and the foot thing, all that has been positive. But at the same time, you go watch that Jacksonville game last week. They got away with more Wentz disaster throws, left-handed throws, panic throws. And you're not going to get away with that type of stuff when the schedule tightens up. And guess what, Mark? The schedule tightens up right now.
I would say this. So the one thing people tried to sell, the apologists tried to sell you on Carson Wentz in the offseason was he's in a great place. It's Frank Reich. It's the line. It's the run game. And those are true. And they're scoring 30 points a game since week 4. So something's working. But I hear you that you're going to get with Carson Wentz. It kind of reminds me of like periods of Drew Bledsoe. You're going to get 2 or 3 throws a game. Ooh. They're going to wreak total havoc on your team, and you got to get over that.
That's an interesting comp. And I think at a certain point with Drew Bledsoe, it was certainly a better athlete, a different type of game. But I know what you're trying to say, Mark, and I agree. At a certain point, Drew Bledsoe was who he was too, was not going to be able to stand in there against pressure. At a certain point, Carson Wentz is who he is. Like, he's going to throw up those crazy couple throws, the left-handed, the shovel pass. It's just, that's who he is. Like, I don't think you're going to take that out of his game.
I do like what he has been doing, what Kirk Cousins needs to do more of with Justin Jefferson. He's gotten into this, throw it up to Michael Pittman, and Pittman will come down with the ball. He's really turned into a star for them. I think they're interesting to watch in part because Wentz is such a roller coaster. But when you sign up for this Wentz experience, things happen. Finally, the Jaguars, Mark, this has to be one, right? What do you think? You never know after the 2 minutes for the Texans.
Let's see here.
Johnny. Oh, he's stretching it. Oh.
We got one. Well,
Johnny Sticks back there.
You remember that video with the Jaguars lady saying you can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show?
Yeah, do we have that?
Well, we efforted it, and we'll see if anything happens in the next couple of minutes.
We'll see.
Let me tell you something.
We're doing it right now, brother.
I'm kind of just saying that I kind of think this is how I feel about this Jaguars team right now, that we're struggling to believe in them stealing the show. But the defense right now, I want to ask your opinion if you believe in it, because after the Bills game and what they did to the Colts, who we just talked about last week, I kind of do, and I kind of think that they're going to be disrupted down the stretch, and it could save Urban Meyer from maybe an early exit there.
I mean, Josh Allen has played as well as any pass rusher over the last month, but they're only 2 games removed from giving up a historically bad good performance to Geno Smith.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to show that
they were so bad for so long before that. I'm not buying it.
This is Mark, your classic move here. You got yourself covered. You have the 49ers as a team that's about to rise, and the Jaguars as a defense that you believe in, and a team you see as a position.
Well, you locked up the 49ers, so we know where your true belief is.
So I can't lose, but I'm not sure how I can win.
Or win. Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's a big mess.
Let's move. AFC South on the books. Always fun figuring out that old clock. We should start making it maybe even get tighter on some teams. Let's get down to 45, 40.
Could have used it.
Getting late in the season.
All right, coming up next, hot seat talk. There are some coaches in a little bit of trouble. We're going to say who we think is. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Before we hit the last division, let's talk about hot seats in the NFL. Every year there's turnover at the head coaching position. This isn't a celebration, it's a reality. Greg, who are some coaches on the hot seat?
Pete Carroll is a guy that fascinates me because of the situation between him and Russell Wilson and ownership. If they continue along this track and they have a losing record, I just think someone's going to go. And I don't know who is really in charge there. Pete Carroll has as much responsibility and power as any coach in the league because of the ownership vacuum after Paul Allen died. It's just something to watch. I'm fascinated by one of the best teams, obviously, over the last decade.
If they have a bad season, and it's been a bad season so far, it could be a changing of the guard. How about another name, Mark?
I'd go Mike Zimmer. I think the earmark of the Vikings has been incredibly frustrating to watch. Not always the sum of their parts. I mean, he's a defensive coach, and he's maximized defense, but that's not all we need in 2021. And I think he's, number one, like, it's not so much that the Mike Zimmer experience has been disappointing from head to toe, but the results are not entirely there. And you got the Kirk Cousins thing. This seems to be a lot of messiness here. And you could see this season, if it melts further, I think the journey might be over for him there.
What if they're actually in a version of purgatory or hell, and we're just in that world too, and these guys are forced to be together forever,
Right.
Zimmer and Cousins?
They're going to go 8-7,
like
be the
scenario.
7th seed, and then they're back.
Let me throw out some other names that I think are in trouble, a potpourri, if you will. David Culley, first-year coach in Houston, but as we talked about, the wrecking ball is heading there. Vic Fangio in Denver, I feel like the clock could be hit midnight on him if they don't have a playoff season. Joe Judge, big changes coming with the Giants. Does he get a third year if the season goes poorly? Matt Nagy, hungry.
We asked him about it, remember?
He said whatever he wanted.
gave us our.
But he said, we said,
us.
which do you say? And he said, Nagy.
He's a guy I feel like he's in a lot of trouble as well. They'll need a really strong finish. And then I'll throw it out there. Rich Bisaccia is the interim coach. John Gruden has already resigned. I wonder if Bisaccia has any chance of coming back for another year.
Potpourri. You don't see it around too much.
No one's using
And
it.
it's not something,
Parents
again,
use it anymore?
we don't celebrate. We celebrate potpourri, but we don't celebrate this. But it happens every year. 4 to 8 coaches will lose their job on the first Monday after the regular season. That's why they call it Black Monday. All right. Before we say goodbye, one final thought. A weekend vibe, if you will. And Greg has a Thanksgiving tape.
Yeah, I appreciate the Detroit experience, unlike someone here. Defend the den.
All right, before we say goodbye, weekend vibes. Greg, get us going.
I'm already thinking ahead to Thanksgiving, and I'm getting ready for a little Boyle's giving. That's right, Tim Boyle on Thanksgiving. Imagine, Mark, first victory in the Dan Campbell era is Tim Boyle on Thanksgiving. Everyone goes crazy. It's good vibes back in Detroit.
I'm a Blauhard, so I'm not thrilled with
I'm just saying that would be a moment. That would be remembered.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice
I like
you.
Tim Boyle.
Boyle, Blau, you get Lions, Thanksgiving. This is what you get. You want it, you got it.
You get a win, is
Mark,
what
how
I'm
about you?
saying.
All right, last night in this Patriots-Falcons drubbing, a moment at the end when renowned Fox cameraman Don Corneli was drilled by Nick Folk's field goal. Look at, is he going to get knocked out and say, I can't do it anymore? They're like, are you all right? He's like, I'm good. He just keeps walking. He keeps doing his job. This guy is built from a different stuff.
I love that. That's a great
Right
dad
there.
move.
He's a Hall of Famer.
It's like, get off me. I'm good.
Dad move right there. He's in the hall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I got some listener fun facts. Remember Letterman had stupid human tricks? Here's listener fun facts. Here's the first one. Fun. The Carolina Panthers are currently paying Cam Newton's replacement's replacement, and for Cam Newton to replace his own replacement's replacement. Yes, the Panthers are a mess, and I love it. And here's another one also from Zach. With the Panthers win over the Cardinals Sunday, cat teams versus bird teams now tied 209, 209, and 10 throughout the course of NFL history.
10 ties is remarkable.
Right, that's a lot. Like, were the cat and bird teams playing back in like the 1910s when there was no scoring?
Put it in my veins. That's so stupid.
It's amazing. I like that.
And we're not fact checking it.
No, we're going
I'm
with it.
sure
we
it's
accept
right.
it. It's gospel.
It's on the internet. It's got to be right.
I love that Cam Newton thing. There had a lot of pride swallowing going on.
They should have just
in
kept
the
Teddy.
Panthers building. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you the next day after that on the broadcast.